We are less than 48 hours removed from the Cotton Bowl, but the Buckeyes are already on to Atlanta, already on to the national championship game. That's the way it goes in college football these days. No time to celebrate a win over the Texas Longhorns. It is full steam ahead toward the Notre Dame Fighting Irish and the national championship game. That's Tim May, the 41-year vet, on the other side of your screen and halfway around this great United States of America. I'm just Spencer Holbrook. Let's talk about it. Ryan Day, Marcus Freeman both met with the media for a Zoom press conference. First time they've spoken since their respective bowl wins. Freeman's team beat Penn State in the Orange Bowl. Ohio State obviously beat Texas in the Cotton Bowl. Now they're going to meet for the national championship. Tim, I thought it was interesting that Ryan Day just continuously brought up that Ohio State's going to have to play its best against Notre Dame and that the Cotton Bowl does not mean anything anymore. The Buckeyes are just absolutely squarely focused on Notre Dame because if they lose this game, the Cotton Bowl is meaningless. What did you take away from hearing from Ryan Day and that message that he's trying to strike with his team?
Well, I think it's the right message for him to strike. You know, the main reason you're asking a few questions after the Cotton Bowl is some things that went on in that game that would portend some good and some bad things for Ohio State if they don't get that situation cleaned up. Not the least of which were the penalties, as he pointed out. You know, they had 4 drives pretty much stunted by bad penalties in that game, but also and then a turnover. So that's the lesson to be learned. You got to be near perfect when it comes to at least the penalty side of things. And then, like the reason I brought up Caleb Downs and the way he and Lathan Ransom triggered on that second play of the goal line stand was because that's what you need all night against a team like Notre Dame. I mean, it's an example of, as he pointed out, but we already knew about 2 outstanding players, not only going on their instincts, but their instincts fueled by what they watched on video and having rapid recall of anticipating what was coming, not just reacting. And we all know that half second can mean so much in games like this. And he's right also. You can't get any more different than Quinn Ewers and Riley Leonard when it comes to quarterbacks and the way they like to play the game. Riley Leonard is what I would call an average passer, at least on this level, and a really good runner. And that's what Ohio State's going to have to be dealing with. They're not going to have to put Notre Dame's not going to have to put a wildcat back in to have a direct snap to a guy who can beat you running, for want of another term. And so that's what he's talking about. It is a totally different test. But we judge this team from test to test to test on whether they're ready finally for this championship test. And so you understand what he's saying, but you got to ask something. So, Coach, what's your game plan? He ain't gonna tell you that either.
I thought it was interesting that Ryan Day continuously said that this team is going to have to play its best to beat Notre Dame. I think
Yep.
he knows that he's favored in this game. Like you can't hide from that. Like the spreads and the lines and things like that and the talking heads, like Ohio State is absolutely the favorite to win this game. They're a favorite by 9.5 right now as of Sunday afternoon. Like it's a pretty large spread. And Ryan Day coming out and telling his team like through the media, hey, we absolutely have to play our best if we're going to beat Notre Dame. This is a tough, resilient team. They're not just going to roll over. Like this is the national freaking championship game. Like you have to play at your highest level if you're going to win this game. And I think that message is important for a team that has kind of had the chip on their shoulder this whole playoff run and all of a sudden now is going to be the favorite. People are already trying to crown them. Like I think it's important that Ryan Day's striking this message. So I like it. I like this the tenor that he's striking, the tune that he's, the chord that he's striking there, trying to play the right tune there. Let's get into a little bit more. Like Ryan Day said, Denzel Burke is dealing with an upper extremity issue, is what he called it. Upper extremity issue.
Looked like a shoulder to me, but he kind of landed funny on that missed tackle. He landed funny. We know he's been dealing with a little bit of a problem. It looked like left shoulder, but we know he's been dealing with a little bit of problem there for a while, and so I think that it just exacerbated the thing. But go ahead.
Yeah, it's one. Jermaine Matthews played so well in his place. I think he gave up 2 catches for 7 yards. Like that's pretty good against a screen heavy Texas team. Denzel Burke obviously gave up 1 catch for 24 yards. That's it. So it's not like Denzel played poorly. Ryan Day was asked straight up, if Denzel's was a benching or if it was all injury related or if there was any performance. And Randy said, no, there was no performance whatsoever, performance related, this holding him out for the second half. I think they thought they could beat Texas with Jermaine Matthews. And if they didn't, then they would have seen if Denzel Burke could go back out there and play, or they would have rotated some guys around. But they stuck with Jermaine Matthews. 47 snaps for the second-year corner. He played really well, I thought. But Denzel Burke is expected to be back and ready to go against Notre Dame, and we'll see what happens there. But I think Ohio State is all of that depth talk that Ryan Day had all offseason, Tim, and leading into the season, like, hey, it's a long season. We've got to be really good, but we've also got to be really deep, and we've got to build these guys up. Like, you're seeing the fruits of that labor, not only with Edric or with Jermaine Matthews, but there's a slip, but with Edric Houston, with these offensive linemen, with Carnell Tate being the leading receiver. Like, that depth that Ryan Day's talking about shows up when Denzel Burke gets a shoulder injury halfway through the Texas game. That depth shows up when Ty Hamilton and Tyleik Williams at certain points in this game looked a little gassed by the way Texas was running its offense, and you're able to throw a true freshman out there. Like, this team is ready for this, and the depth that they've built, but also the depth that Notre Dame's built. Notre Dame's playing their 9th, 10th, 11th offensive lineman. They're playing their 5th cornerback. They're playing, their defensive lineman is down 2 starters. Like, and they've made it this far. Like, these are 2 resilient bunches. And I think Denzel Burke and the Jermaine Matthews thing are just a prime example of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great example. And number 3, I mean, Jermaine Matthews is, for one of another term, he's an upperclassman now, and he's shown his mettle going back to last year. So they have no hesitancy, I guess is the best way of putting it, of putting him in a game and leaving him in a game. And of course, you always have the luxury of a Jordan Hancock floating around out there who could play corner, in a scramble situation. But you like him, what he's doing on the backside of the defense now, and getting in on things. So yeah, they have a lot. The knock on wood aspect also comes at, like you pointed out, defensive end when JT Tuimoloau left, and it looked serious when they were first looking at him on the field, but then he went into the tent, came out with this I wouldn't call it a massive, but a semi-massive tape job on his ankle, and he played pretty much the rest of the game. So nobody's walking around out there feeling like they just jumped into preseason practice at all from a freshness standpoint. And it was always going to be the team with the will and the health the teams that with the will and the health that were going to finally rise above in this extended for Notre Dame and Ohio State 4-game playoff. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy when you think about it, and yet it suddenly looks all routine. I mean, the way these teams every 8-9 games are playing a big time game again. And just think about it, man. Ohio State already has a Rose Bowl trophy and a Cotton Bowl trophy, new ones for their trophy cases, but that's not the ones they want. I mean, they want a national championship trophy, and same thing goes for Notre Dame. And it's crazy when you wrap your head around the fact they've already played 2 of the great bowl games ever, and they're still not satisfied.
Yeah, that's definitely the message that both of these teams are sending. Like, Marcus Freeman talked about how special it would be for the first national championship at Notre Dame since 1988. Ryan Day talked about the job not being finished and the way that, they only get to tell the story if they win. The Jack Sawyer story is not even going to be told if they lose this game, which I don't believe, but we'll talk about that.
Maybe not by them, but it will be by me and you.
Yeah, because I will absolutely never forget the Jack Sawyer fourth and goal, which we're still trying to come up with a name. 83 yards through the heart of Texas. I might have to pull out a George Strait album and see if there's a pun I can make there with Jack Sawyer's name to get the right nickname for that play. But that's another thing. Ryan Day talked about that play specifically, and when he was asked,
"Hey, how about this?
Said,
how about this? How about this? Make a run from the border." Go ahead now.
There you go. But he said, Ryan Day said, like, hey, we're not talking about the last game. We're not even going to answer questions about it. He kind of alluded to how special the moment was, but at the same time, like, he basically said, like, I'm not talking about it. I'm ready for Notre Dame. Like, he doesn't even want to bring it up.
But like when I asked him about did he pull a hamstring on running down the sideline there chasing Jack, and at the end of that, maybe you have. I have never ever seen Ryan Day that happy. ever.
Yeah.
I mean, just ecstatic. He's jumping up and down, and like you pointed out, it reminds me of auto racing guys I've covered in the past, like the team managers. The guys who put the team together and try to make everything, not just the car work well, but the team work well. When you see it all come together, and you've won a big race, it just fills your heart with so much warmth and satisfaction. You have to let it out a little bit, and that's what you saw with Ryan, because in the final analysis, he's the boss. He's been building this roster. He's been building this staff of coaches, but then to see a guy just do something remarkable in the midst of it all, of course you become ecstatic. Of course that's something that's going to be on your mantle, win or lose, on Monday night, next Monday night in Atlanta. But it was just good to see a guy who's been under so much pressure, which is Ryan Day, as to steal a Jim Tressel word, emote like that. I mean,
Mhm.
you agree, right? I don't think we've ever seen him like that before.
No, but I think that was the whole game. Like they throw this screen pass to Travion, which I don't think it. He might say that they thought it could pop. I don't think anybody thought that it could pop for 75 yards.
It
But
popped, baby.
yeah, it certainly did, and that was a special play by a special player, but also a great play call by Ryan Day and Chip Kelly to have that thing ready. And we've seen Ryan Day in the 2-minute drill started off with screens. That's kind of his hallmark of the 2-minute is
Yeah,
a screen.
this was only 20 seconds left or whatever.
I
You had to
know.
come up with something. Boom. And there's two things you can do there: either chuck it down the field, or maybe catch them unaware, spread out, which is what Texas was, and run a screen at it with two or three big guys in front of your running back. And he kind of made a remarkable catch to a certain extent. Travion did, and then Carson Hinsman was the right place, right time. So was Tegra Shabola, and boom, out the gate.
Yeah, exactly. But the point of that is like we saw Ryan Day doing like finger guns on the sideline after that play
Yes,
on the TV broadcast. And like I've never seen that from Ryan
me
Day. And
neither.
I've covered in person every game except for the 2020 season uh since he's been the head coach, and you have as well. Like we don't see that from him. We don't see him sprinting down the sideline and skipping like a child and then jumping into Jack Sawyer's arms for an embrace after plays. Um, that game meant so much to so many, and it was such an important, pivotal part of, I think, Ryan's legacy, with
Yeah.
whether he realizes it or not, and whether he wins on Monday night or not. Like you've now won 3 playoff games in 1 year. Urban Meyer won 2 playoff games in his career, and I know it's different circumstances, but like, oh my gosh. And the Jack play has some resemblance of the defensive version of the Zeke Elliott play from 10 years ago. So like I think they did a good job of celebrating the moment and understanding the moment and realizing that moment. But man, like it's pretty sobering to see them all celebrating 36 hours ago. No
Yep.
joke, 36 hours ago. And
Yep.
all of a sudden be back in Columbus, Ohio and be like, hey, that doesn't matter because we have to go beat Notre Dame or else none of this matters.
Yeah.
And
It's
it's
like it's like a regular season on steroids is what we're covering here. It's really nuts.
Yeah, Ohio State's going to have to beat 4 top 10 teams just to win a national championship in a row. And to do it after the Michigan game would be remarkable. The 3 after what happened in the Michigan game is already remarkable. Let's finish up here. I know you've got to get out of your hotel room and get back to the greatest city in the world. You
Yeah.
might get kicked out during this,
Wait a
but
minute.
that's okay.
Are you referring to Hilliard? Go ahead
Yeah,
now.
exactly. Well, don't dox yourself there, Tim. Let's
All right.
finish with this. Marcus Freeman also spoke. It wasn't just Ryan Day. Marcus Freeman spoke at 11 a.m. Ryan Day spoke at noon. Marcus Freeman said that Anthony Knapp, the star offensive tackle for Notre Dame, started, I think, every game this year for the Fighting Irish, will be out. He just came out and said it. Like he's dealing with a high ankle sprain. It was a bad ankle sprain. He wasn't in
Yep.
pads at the end of the game. He was in street clothes. Like it didn't look good. And he will be out. Then he said that we'll see how the week progresses with Rocco Spindler, who's a guard who's really good. The Irish are already dealing with injuries. Charles Jagasaw tore his pec in August and missed the entire season. He had to come in for Spindler. Now that he's healed, it's been such a long season that Jagasaw healed and came in at guard for Spindler against Penn State and didn't play too
Yeah.
bad. So like You think Ohio State's dealing with offensive line injuries? Buddy, let me tell you about the Fighting Irish. Like, this is a banged up group. There are already 2 starters down as well on the defensive line, including the star defensive tackle Riley Mills, who got hurt in the Indiana game and is not going to play in the national championship game. Benjamin Morrison went down, I think, in October or early November, one of the best cornerbacks in college football. He's out for the season. He hasn't played since then, and he's already training for the NFL draft. Like, this is a banged up Notre Dame team, and I think it was pretty telling that Freeman just came out and said, like, hey,
Yeah.
you know, Knapp's not playing, and they already know that he's not playing. So now they've got time to get ready for that. But man, this is a resilient Notre Dame team with all the injuries they've gone through, even more so than what Ohio State's gone through.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like last men standing is what you might
Yeah.
call this national championship game if you had a subtitle for it, it's been remarkable, just like it's been remarkable the way Ohio State dealt with those offensive line problems of losing guys. I'm gonna write another story about that this week, because it 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 it's uncharted territory. I mean, we're in uncharted territory in terms of a college football season, and the length of it, but also, like you pointed out a minute ago, Spence, they haven't been playing. As Gordon Gee would have put it way back when, sisters of the poor here. I mean, this be a fourth straight top 10 opponent, and to win a national championship. Nobody's ever done that before. Neither these two teams, no one has ever had to play 16 games to win a national championship. So hats off to them. I'm saying some obvious stuff there only because I am like kind of not kind of I'm very impressed by the way these teams have taken punches, both on the field, losing to Northern Illinois like Notre Dame did. I mean, Marcus Freeman had to be feeling some heat right there, not just a sense of getting his team back together, but are you kidding me, coach? This is
Yeah.
the year. You've got the schedule, and then but the way he rebounded that team is remarkable. The way Brian Day and his staff got this team back on its feet, Ohio State, after that ridiculous loss to Michigan, which they know deep in their hearts they still could have, should have won, but didn't get it done. And what that took away from them, but then to round them up and get them in this kind of in this kind of setting, playing for a national championship. If people don't think that's a coach of the year kind of stuff, they're not paying attention. And of course, Marcus Freeman's already been named the Bobby Dodd, I think, coach of the year, nationally. So uh, both these guys have done a hell of a job. And I'm going to ask them. Well, I'll tell you about something I'm going to ask later. But the bottom line is, Jeff, these are guys. Their first head coaching jobs were at Notre Dame and Ohio State, and here they are playing for the first 12-team college football playoff. It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, one of them is going to become a first-time national champion head coach. They'll become
Yes.
one of, I believe, 3 active head coaches with a national championship, which is pretty remarkable. They'll join one of them, Ryan Day or Marcus Freeman, will join Dabo Sweeney and Kirby Smart now that Mac Brown's not coaching, now that Nick Saban's not coaching, now that Jimbo Fisher's not coaching. Like, the sport is going to get a new first-timer, and that's pretty remarkable that it's going to be one of these 2 guys. Not as remarkable for Ryan just because of the program that he inherited and the thing that he's built, but like for Marcus, I think it's pretty remarkable that he's got a chance to do that. Very last thing, we'll get out of here.
Yeah, but he's at Notre Dame. Do not discount the fact he's at Notre Dame. Go ahead.
Yeah, the place that Brian Kelly said you couldn't win a title at. So we'll see if Marcus Freeman can prove him wrong. Last thing, Marcus Freeman declined to give some stories about he and James Laurinaitis. They are absolutely best friends. They're going to be on opposite sidelines. The storyline's there with the former Ohio State linebacker Marcus Freeman in Ohio State. Like, we've already told those stories the last couple of years because these teams have played now in 3 straight years. But it's still worth reminding. Like, this is a guy who bleeds scarlet and gray, who's going to try to beat Ohio State in the national championship game. And then lastly, Rob Aller of the Columbus Dispatch. You got to credit a guy when he brings something up like this. Hilariously asked Ryan Day if he has talked to Lou Holtz at all since that last September, calling out that Ryan had there in Notre Dame Stadium. Ryan Day said very plainly, no. He just said no. So if you're expecting Ryan Day and Lou Holtz to have some sort of, shaking of the hands or apologizing to each other, I would not be counting on that at all.
Hey, Lucky Lou picked Tennessee to beat Ohio State in the first round of the playoffs, on his little podcast or whatever that was. So, I don't think they're ever going to be best buds. And sometimes there's no need to make up with somebody, right? I mean, you know what they think of you. I mean, that's like I always say, if somebody tells me they don't think Seinfeld is funny, or a couple other things that really get me going, because my best friends all think Seinfeld is funny. Maybe not the last season, kind of got a little stilted, and the first season was a little slow. But I really don't even want to have a conversation with you. You understand my drift? That's wasting my time. I mean, I don't have to be friends with everybody, and so yeah. I mean, I think that ship has sailed, if in fact it was ever in port.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, Tim. I don't think Ryan Day and Lou Holtz need to make up unless Ryan wins a national championship, joins Lou Holtz in that national championship winning fraternity, and he keeps Marcus Freeman from joining him instead. Maybe he'll give him a phone call and say, "Hey, Lou, I'm a member of your club now. Am I tough enough?" We'll see what happens. But Ohio State Notre Dame next Monday in the national championship game. We are just a little bit over a week away. Lettermen Row will be in full force down in Atlanta for the national championship game. Tim May, the 41-year vet, he'll be there. Mick Walker will be there with us on site in Atlanta for the national championship game, taking photos of everything, doing some recruiting stuff. And there's me, Spencer Holbrook. We'll all be down there in the A, as they call it, in Atlanta for the national championship game, Mercedes-Benz Stadium next Monday night. Follow lettermenrow.com for full coverage. Like the video below, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and we'll see you over at lettermenrow.com as we gear up for Ohio State and Notre Dame in the national championship game.